In this lesson, moving forward, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things. First, we'll take a look at how to import data into the backend configuration management database. And then secondly, I'm going to demonstrate how to run reports and create reports from within the ServiceNow platform. So to begin with the data import as a first step, let's go ahead and navigate to the filter navigation. Simply select or find the application and then the relevant module, right? So I'm going to go ahead and then just type import, and below it gives me several applications. In order to import data, few steps must be followed. For instance, we cannot directly import. We must load the data first, which is under the system import sets application. There's a module called load data. Once the data is loaded, then we can play around with it and then create sets and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on load data, and what this will do is bring up a page and allows me to import the set table. I can either create a new table, so the data to be imported will be imported in this new table that I'm going to create within the database, or I can import data within an existing table. So for example, let me just show you this. If I click on existing table, notice it gives me several existing tables that are already part of the database. I'm going to leave it as create a table. I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this A_my table, for example. And then notice the backend database already gives a logical name as well. For example, U_A_my table, which cannot be changed. Next option is the source of the import, whether it's a file or a data source. So for instance, the different data sources could be LDAP, JDBC, from an existing database such as Oracle, SAP, and so on. You can import data directly from those databases, or a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and, for demonstration purposes, select the file because I already have an Excel file saved, a sample file. I'm going to import it within the platform. So let's go ahead and select file, and then of course the choose file button appears. I'm going to go ahead and click on choose file. Brings up my Windows Explorer. Let's navigate down to a particular file. So let's say it's called transpose.xlsx. So just a sample file. So highlight the file, click open, and what this will do is it will attach the file called transpose.xlsx. Notice I have the ability to give a sheet number and a header row number. And once I'm done specifying the configuration parameters, simply click submit. And this is going to go ahead and in fact import the actual Excel spreadsheet. It's going to run the import processor. It's going to tell me the state is running, and of course the message. Once it's completed, it gives me the results. So it tells me the state, completion code is a success. The good thing about ServiceNow is that the next steps are already listed. So it knows exactly once I've loaded the data what needs to be done. So for example, I can go to the import sets. I can go to the newly imported data. I can create a transform map, for example. And this is just a transform map that links the imported data and fields. And I can view the import log as well. The same set of options are also available from within the application navigator pane. So for example, I have the transform maps, for instance, I have the import sets, and so on. So once the data is loaded, let's navigate to the loaded data to take a look at the actual data. So I'm going to click on the loaded data, and it simply shows me the my tables, and the state is pending at this point. So if I were to click on, let's say, the list controls here and refresh the list just to make sure that everything is uploaded. Now once I'm done with this, another thing I want to show you is the data sources. So let's go ahead and click on data sources, which simply defines how to get data that will be imported, right? So this is another area that is important. So I'm going to go ahead and click on data sources, and these are the different data sources that are already listed. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new data source, and this is useful because you want to create the data source and then get all the data inside that data source. Okay, so it's just like giving it a runaround. So you can either import data, load data directly, or you can create a data source first. So I'm going to go ahead and just call it and give it any name. I'm going to say my data source, for example. I can give it set a table label, for example. Type format is going to be, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet. If it's a zipped format, I can specify and check this box. The file retrieval method is going to be an attachment. I can go ahead and click on the manage attachments paperclip icon, and this will bring up the attachments dialog box. I can once again choose the file and then navigate to the same file just for demonstration purposes, so you can see. Select the file, click open, and this is going to attach the file to this data source as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK and close this. Perfect. And notice the attachments are now being done. So once I'm done with this, I can go ahead and click on submit, and it will submit the data source. And here's my new data source called a_my data source. So this way it's as easy as, in simpler terms, just go ahead and import either the import sets data, or you can create your own data source as well. So once the data source is created, let's go ahead and click on load data. And here, notice once I go ahead and go back to loading data, this time I can go ahead and select the existing table, for example, and here's the a_my table. Recall we just created that in the previous steps. So I wanted to show you and demonstrate the entire loop, right? So you actually can import data within an existing table, or you can always create a new table. Perfect. So once we're done with the import, next let me in fact demonstrate the reports as well. So to take a look at reports, just simply navigate back to the search bar here, and I'm going to go ahead and type report, and different reports are listed. So if I scroll down and I want to find the application that's going to say reports, right? So here's the application, and then this application has various modules. So I can create a new report, I can view or run an existing report. First, let's go ahead and create a new report. So let's go ahead and click on new, and this will again bring us to the dashboard or the page or the instance where I can actually create a new report. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. So I'm going to say a_my report. I'm just using these naming conventions. They're always better to use naming conventions so that as the administrator or the architect of this platform, you can actually easily navigate to the naming conventions. So you can choose your own. Perfect. So once I give the report a new name, next option is to select the table where the report is going to come from, where the data is going to come from. So again, this data can be a table, can be a report, or it can be another source. So I'm going to leave it as table, and then of course I need to tell which. So this is going to be an incident or a project or coming from portfolio, and there's a whole list, right? So I can create a report based on, for example, the Azure load balancing inbound, NAT rule, budget notes, and so on. So I'm going to create a report just off of the incident, and an incident reported by any user, such as could be a service desk issue, could be a help desk area, could be an inquiry, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and select the incident. The type is going to be a list, or I can select either charts if I like, column, pie charts, and so on. So I'm going to leave it as list for now. And group by, I can also group the report. Let's say if I'm going to group this by incident state. So whichever the results are going to be displayed on the bottom here, they're going to be grouped by incident state. I can also add existing columns to my report. For example, by default, it's selected number 1, state, category, task type, domain, and problem. I can always add from the available list so that they can be displayed on the report. Additionally, I can choose add filter condition and logical operators such as or and conditions, and also add a sort field as well. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and click on run, and this is going to actually go fetch the data and execute and run the report. And since I selected the type list, it shows me 3 results, and these are grouped by incident state. So my new incidents are 4,709, in progress are 3, and then the cases that have been closed are 159. If I need to view any one of these, I can always click on them. For example, let's go ahead and take a look at the closed incident states. It's going to give me a list view of all of those. I can always go back to the toggle here and view the indicators portal, self-service, filter the entire list. I can group, change the grouping. I can always show and refresh the list as well. Again, we've done this before. So straightforward in working with reports. So I'm going to go ahead and similarly, once you've done creating the report, if you navigate to the view and run, you can also take a look at existing reports that are out there, and you can click on each one of these reports to actually view them. So in this lesson, I want to talk about the table imports, data, and then running the reports. Another thing you might want to know for the exam purposes is the configuration items. So CI, or configuration item, is basically any computer, could be any device, could be software or service within the database. So a CI record basically will include all of the relevant data, such as the manufacturer, vendor, location, etc. And these configuration items can be created or maintained either using tables, lists, forms within the ServiceNow platform. So just wanted to verify and make sure that you understand the definition of a configuration item as well. So I hope this helps practice importing data, working with tables, understanding and creating reports, viewing these reports. Let's move to the next lesson.